Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, it's the 25th anniversary of Wu-Tang Forever. Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine snubbed again on a Best Rappers of the Year list. And I review HipHopDX's Best Rap Albums of 2022 so far. Not mine, theirs. Not mine. Not in the game. Not in the game. Talking about their list. All right. Start the show.
Let's get ready to business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic album.
Come to Hip Hop Podcast.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happen throughout the week. This podcast and many other podcasts that I produce are brought to you by the producers over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. Thank you for your service. If you want to know what that's all about, well, the link is in the description of this episode. I'm being extra dramatic by slowing down my speech. I don't know what it does, but somebody out there has to be digging it. I'm not going to say pause. I know some of y'all need that. I get it. It's cool. It's fine. It's cool. It's fine. Really quick before we get into the show. So if you have been a subscriber of Hip Hop Now podcast, or you're checked in every now and again on this stream, you know, like I know, that I not only provide this weekly podcast that gives you the news, but I've also added other forms of content to this stream, right? Like That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast hosted by me and Tony of IntoTheDome.com. 60 plus episodes deep, right? But I provide that here on this stream, right? There's that. Then also some of you know that I do bonus episodes and reviews, and some of them are exclusive or timed exclusives. But a couple of months ago, I started another addition to the Hip Hop Now podcast family, and that is Hip Hop Twitter, right? My honest reactions to comments or posts or tweets on Twitter, hosted by myself and the homie Yentz. Now, season 1 is still available on the Hip Hop Now podcast stream. So if you are already subscribed to this podcast and you haven't heard any of those episodes, you can check them out. They're already a part of this catalog. And trust me, I have episodes going back so far, it won't be difficult to find them on the stream. You just got to go down the list of episodes. You'll see them. There are 12 total for season 1. Season 2 just recently launched. And the thing that I decided to do, because I felt like it was the best for that particular podcast, was to create a separate stream specifically for that show. So not only is season 1 on that podcast stream, but also season 2 has begun. The link is in the description of this episode. I'm going to try to promote every episode so you can go check it out. So what that means, right? What does that mean to you? Well, that means if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, do not look for season 2 of Hip Hop Twitter on this feed because it's not here. You have to go and subscribe to Hip Hop Twitter, and it's very easy. You either, while you listen to this, look at the description and you'll see Hip Hop Twitter podcast. Click that link and subscribe to that podcast as well. Review it if you listen through Apple Podcasts. Check out some of the bonus features if you listen through Spotify. But it's all coming from Anchor. So at the end of the day, and you can catch it on Pocket Cast as well. So at the end of the day, if you like the idea or you would just like to learn more about what that specific podcast is, it is very different from what I'm doing here. The link is in the description. Let's get right into the business. This is an episode where it's a slow week, y'all. And I'm not going to even hold y'all. I'm not going to shortchange hip hop fans. And obviously there's always news, but some of it is not anything that a music fan of hip hop would care about, right? Who cares if Joe Budden has an opinion on strip clubs in New York, right? Is that what you came here for? No, that's not what you came here for. But what I like to do when the news is semi-slow, in my opinion, I like to pick 3 things that will be worth your while. And one being that Wu-Tang Clan recently celebrated the 25th anniversary of their sophomore album as a group, their only double album as a group, Wu-Tang Forever, released on June 3rd, 1997. Remember, Into the 36 Chambers came out in 1993. 4 years until you got another group album from Wu-Tang, and it was a double album. I'm going to take you down memory lane real quick as it relates to me. I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. I have a lot of money to be buying a bunch of music every day, all day, every single album that came out. This is back then. I ain't had bread like that. If I had to choose between 1 or 2 albums, I would. If I didn't have the bread at the moment, I knew I would eventually get it. But the thing that always helps is when you got what? Friends. How many of us had, you know what I'm talking about. Shout out to Houdini. But nevertheless, that's really what I had to rely on, right? Was a friend having it before me and me being able to check it out and listen to it and in some cases get them to give me a copy, whether they had a computer early on and was able to burn a copy, which for some reason I feel like that's not something that happened in 97. I don't know. We weren't that rich. White people, you tell us. I'm just joking. But nevertheless, it felt like you had to go and still get a cassette in order to get a copy. And that might have been what I did to hold me over until I got a CD. I don't remember having like a cassette version of it and listening to that for a while. So I either heard it or I had to wait, right? I heard it every day or I had to wait. But the key to the matter is, I'm not going to get too deep into the story, but it was one of the summers that I didn't come home from college. I decided to stay in Baltimore and work. And I know I'm working money, but brother got paid his rent or Wu-Tang Forever. Which one, fam? You know, I had to choose. I chose rent and eating, like ramen noodles and stuff and popcorn. But nevertheless, come on, man. We getting sidetracked. Nevertheless, I had a homie, you know, like after we were all come from our, you know, long day at work or whatever, knowing we were the only ones in town and, you know, as far as who we knew, not the whole city of Baltimore, from school, you know, we would just get together. And one of my friends bought that album day and date and listened to it. Every time we walked through that door, he was playing that album. So I never felt like, damn, man, I wish I could hear it. You know, damn, I wish I could hear that album again. It was like, no, if we were over there 4 days out the week, let's just say me and the homies, some ladies, not what you think, then I was kind of getting my fill of, you know, my opinion and what I feel. And then eventually I was able to buy it myself. And my initial reaction to when I first heard the album was strange because, again, 1993 in hip hop was a very different place versus where we were in 1997 with hip hop, right? In 93, Biggie wasn't a star. Bad Boy wasn't what it became. It was kind of creeping up, but it wasn't there yet. 97, they were top of the pile, but also Biggie and Tupac, and especially Biggie, were murdered. Tupac murdered in the fall of 96. Biggie murdered in the spring of March, to be specific, a couple of months away from the release of this Wu-Tang album. And I remember I was so into like mourning Big and listening to Life After Death and absorbing what's there and looking for, you kind of looking for something within the music to still feel like you had that connection to the person that was once alive a couple of months ago. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot I liked, but the Wu-Tang album just came out at an awkward time for me and for hip hop for the most part. But I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I was unsure because honestly, if you take Wu-Tang Forever, and you take the best songs and you make one album, it's a classic. I think in today, most people will call it a classic, but I think they call it that off of nostalgia purposes. And let's be clear. The only songs we typically tend to hear off of a double album from this album are Triumph, right? One of Wu-Tang's greatest records. And occasionally you'll hear It's Yours or MGM. Like, you won't always hear all the records, right? You forget the records that probably eventually you skipped. I think it was one of the better double albums in hip hop, but probably suffered from too many songs at the same time. And it suffered a little bit from whatever it was about the first one. I want to give y'all a description, but if you know Into the 36 Chambers, but it kind of suffered from the charm and the creativity of the first album. Just felt more like we done went off, blew up, we done had solo careers and dropped classics, we done did all these different things, remixes, R&B songs, all kinds of stuff. And this felt like we're trying to come together to do a new album, but it's really us just coming together to hand RZA some verses for the most part. And that's where some people feel like, if you just break it down to the best songs, you get a better album. But that's not what happened. Now, being from the future, and in this regard, I'm going to tell me to get the, get what I mean? Get your ass out of here. But we know that this album is way better than what followed. And I'm talking about damn near every Wu-Tang album that followed. Now, I wasn't mad at Iron Flag. I actually liked it at the time. This was Wu-Tang's third album. And I think because ODB passed, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of made it kind of did what the same thing for me that, Life After Death did, right? You're still kind of looking for this connection to what was. But I didn't think Iron Flag was whack at all back then. As a matter of fact, I don't know if Iron Flag was even their third album. Let's check. I stand corrected. Thank you, Mr. Google. Iron Flag was actually their fourth album. But now that I remember what their third album was, which was the W, which I felt like after Wu-Tang Forever to get that album in 2000, I just did not like it at all. A lot of it had to do with Gravel Pit and me feeling like, what is this? But I like Pinky Ring. But I really didn't like that album at all. Maybe it's an album I go back to see if I like it. But Iron Flag came out the very next year. Dropped December 18, 2001. You know, September 11th had just happened. ODB passing away was still fresh for a lot of people. So that album felt like they locked in a little bit more than they did with the W. Then they had 8 Diagrams 6 years later in 2007. That album is trash. I'm going to just keep it a buck. Then 7 years later, they dropped the 2014 album, A Better Tomorrow, which I also thought was trash. And I think a lot of people, I remember this is when, you know, not the early days of social media, but the early days of social media nonsense and false hype started to take over. Some of the posts I saw about that album, I was like, these can't be people who were Wu-Tang fans from day one. It can't be. They can't possibly like this album like that. And in 2015, they dropped Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. Now, wait a minute. What album is that? No, I'm thinking of something else. In 2017, they dropped The Saga Continues. That was the project that I believe Mathematics produced and RZA executive produced. And I really liked that album. And some people didn't like that joint. But what I liked about it the most was the fact that Mathematics brought back for the group, right? Because we know the story with Ghostface bringing back the Wu-Tang sound and Only Built for Cuba Links 2 and all of that, and feeling like the Wu was back in some regard, but not as a group. As a group, I did a whole show on the ratio, or not the ratio, but on the I'm afraid to say, y'all, the theory that Wu-Tang as a group isn't that great. Now, I don't mean styles and music they put out. Of course not. It was just Wu-Tang Clan. But when you look at the average of albums, right? Remember how Jay-Z was breaking down Nas albums on The Takeover, and he was basically pointing out like your greatest work was early, even though Nas went to make that to be false. But at that point in time, it was damn near true. But with Wu-Tang as a group, I mean, 36 Chambers, classic, undeniable. Wu-Tang Forever, probably a classic. If I personally would give it maybe a 4.25, because I could listen to it, but I think there's some records I would skip nowadays. The W I felt like was whack for the most part. Iron Flag I thought was okay. But then 8 Diagrams was whack. And That Better Tomorrow was whack. And this Wu Saga, even though it didn't feel like it was like an official Wu album, but they kind of touted it as such, right? It got all the Wu members. RZA's executive producer. They just had Mathematics producing. Mathematics been around since the beginning. So it's a Wu album. And I thought it was good. So maybe they're a little bit 50-50 with their run as a group. But nevertheless, Wu-Tang Forever. Double album from Wu-Tang Clan. I think in this day and age where I don't know not one person that doesn't love this TV series on Hulu, Wu-Tang American Saga, doesn't watch that series and just go and listen to Wu. And when you listen to Wu-Tang Forever, it's like a time capsule of a in-between time where, you know, Biggie and Tupac were gone, but you were reminded that Wu-Tang Clan was still around. Wu-Tang is forever. You know what I'm saying? So definitely an album that I own, that I have no problem going back to. Honestly, I probably own all the albums, even the ones I call whack, because I'm a fan of the Wu. What else would I do? Bars. In other news, this sounds like something you've probably heard before if you follow this podcast, if you follow hip hop. But apparently, some best rappers of 2022 lists left off Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine, who have both dropped albums this year. Benny the Butcher dropped Tanner Talk 4, which I'm still bumping. Conway the Machine finally dropped his album. Finally dropped that joint, his Shady Records album. But this is about a top 10 best rappers list. So let's read it. It's on HipHopDX.com. I'm not going to read all of it. Obviously, go there, check it out yourself. Westside Gunn finds it laughable his Griselda brethren, Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine, aren't among the 10 best rappers of 2022. Veteran journalist and Complex Brackets host. We know how this goes. Every time we say Complex. Host Brian B. Miller sparked a heated debate among rap heads on Thursday, June 2nd, when he posted his opinion, of the top 10 best rappers of 2022 so far. Now, let's see if we can get straight to the list, because that's what makes it more interesting. I guess HipHopDX said we're not posting this list. We're going to post what happened afterwards. So let's keep going. Ranking MCs based on, no, here's the list. Okay, let's go separately to the list. I'm going to read you his list. Save you some trouble. You ain't got to go. I'm not going to read that whole article, but I'm going to read you Brian B. Miller of Complex's list. At number 10, he has 21 Savage. Remember, this is top 10 best rappers of 2022 so far. I'm seeing a lot of asterisks here, though. I don't know. It's like a lot of ass betting in this list. Nevertheless, number 10, 21 Savage. Number 9, Jack Harlow. Number 8, Lil Baby. Number 7, Lil Durk. Number 6, Vince Staples. Number 5, Boldy James. Oh, my God. Number 4, Kodak Black. What? This dude, I feel triggered. Sorry, I'm commenting at the same time. Number 3, J. Cole. Number 2, Pusha T. Number 1, Kendrick Lamar. Now, the asterisks say that his top 10 best rappers of 2022 so far are based on skill, performance, and relevance, and incorporate the first 6 months of 2022. Now, granted, it's his opinion, but skill, he starts with skill first. The bottom half of that list is really shaky when it comes to skill, because I know you got an asterisk there to say skill, but in 2022, we have to ask you, how do you mean that? Right? Because the perception could be that, Kodak Black is skilled because I like his record. He did something to make me like it. That's a skill. It is a skill. But in hip hop, you don't use that word unless you're talking about complexity of rhymes. Most of these cats, not all of them, most of these cats do not meet that criteria. But it's his list. This is what Westside Gunn had to say about Benny the Butcher and Conway, being left off the list. This N-word personally didn't put up Benny and Conway. Then he said, clickbait, duh, he knows by not putting them on there will give it the attention it just, wait, okay, Westside Gunn, chill with I'm not going to assume it's Ebonics, but I'm going to read it, y'all. Don't blame me. Clickbait, duh. He knows by not putting them on there will give it the attention it is, just like when I just tweeted it. That's exactly what he wants for the conversation. I know for a million effing, I don't know what that word is, but whatever. This is intentional. Ain't that right? Conway says this is a great list. Okay. I don't know who's lying. I know Conway's not lying. I know what he's doing. And let me make sure Conway wasn't responding to a different tweet when he said that. Let's just make sure. Let's make sure I keep the context. Conway, meanwhile, released a long-awaited blah, 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 blah. The Machine echoed Westside Gunn's sentiment as he gave a sarcastic, so it was a sarcastic like I thought. Between Westside Gunn's interpretation of this list and B-Dot's list itself, I don't know who's the troll. On the one hand, this is B-Dot's opinion. I really don't think he purposely left Benny and Conway off this list. I really felt like he had 10 slots. Who was going to get the Coke rap slot or whatever? Who was going to get... Boldy James is already on this list. That's the homie to them. This is frustrating. Let's just get to the point, y'all. The bottom line is this list is whack. Westside Gunn trying to figure out and say what this guy's doing while doing the thing he's accusing him of getting him to do is the reason why I have a show called Hip Hop Twitter, because I don't have time to read these things. But nevertheless, do they deserve to be on the top 10? As far as raps, I think so. I think they proved time and time again, man, they are among the best of the spitters in the game. They both just released projects. When you're talking about skill, first and foremost, and performance can be wrapped up within that skill. They should be on this list. Boldy James should not be on this list, in my opinion. But Boldy is kind of, and I can't hate on it, he's not my cup of tea, right? I think he's boring. But some people love that. And he winning right now as far as attention goes. And he's ranked pretty high on that list. Now, I know who's on the list, but just look at who they left off to put Boldy on there. And to put J. Cole, even though J. Cole's verse was mean on Benny's album, but I mean, damn, did you hear Benny's verse on that same song? They both were crazy. So again, it's when a hip hop head works for an organization where he has to keep popularity in mind while trying to narrow down the spitters to try to satisfy both groups. It never works. Just say what's real, say your criteria, and keep it moving, because you're just going to hurt yourself, fam. And lastly, and we've been going for a while, but we're going to keep it, we're going to keep it brief because this is their list. So HipHopDX put out their, and you can visit them, HipHopDX.com, their best hip hop albums of the year so far, of 2022 so far. Now, I did something similar a couple of months back. I plan to not do one at this point, but I will probably drop one in August, right before we get to that fall season where, people like to rush and blitz albums that we thought was coming out all year, and now we're getting towards the end of the year, and there's probably going to be a bunch of stuff that drops. So look out for my updated list sometime the end of the summer. But let's look at their list and let's critique, right? It's like people watching, right? Like, you just watch them like, look at his shoes. Like, it's like that. But it's hip hop albums. So the best rap albums of 2022 so far, according to the HipHopDX staff. Some of these will not surprise you, but I'll tell you what I feel about them briefly. Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I'm sorry, y'all. It's in my top 5 of the year. The more I press play on that thing, the more I'm like, there's no way. This ain't even fandom. There's no way somebody puts this much into their craft and be successful at it and not be looked back upon at the end of the year to say, this is hands down one of the best of the year. Quell Chris, Death Fame, that is on my to listen list, so I'll have more about that. Black Star, No Fear of Time. This does not belong on this list. I've listened to this album 3 times already. It's not whack, but it's a huge disappointment in a lot of ways because it's meh. It's cool. Nothing changes for me. Every time I press play, it just, oh, right, new Black Star. But trust me, it's going to be really forgettable really quick. Action Bronson, Coco Drillo Turbo. I kind of squashed this album when I first heard it. Like, yeah, it's not that great. It's still not that great to me. It's just not, whatever. Pusha T, It's Almost Dry. I'm going to tell you like this. It's in my top 5. I don't know how I got there. I wasn't excited for it when I first heard it. I played it a second time, played it a third time, and I was like, goddamn, I think I like this album. I think it has a lot to do with the production, but I'll talk more about that later on. Billy Woods and Preservation. Ethiopies? I don't know. I heard this album. It was cool, but I'm good. Red Devil? Red Devil? I don't know. Learn to Swim. Let's see. PG County, Maryland rapper, Red Devil, I think that's his name, isn't yet old enough to legally drink, but he has collaborated. Get this kid shit out of here. I'm sorry. Sorry, kids. I might check it out, though. If I keep seeing this on people's list at the end of the year, I might be more intrigued to listen to it. And I've probably already heard him, but didn't recognize him, but whatever. What is this? ESTG and 42 Doug. You know I don't even know him because I'm messing up. I'm doing the old man. ESTG 42 Doug. Last One's Left or SG, whatever. I haven't heard it. Don't care. Unless it pops up again. Again, at the end of the year, I look at a couple of outlets list, and when I see an album that is consistent on other lists that I haven't heard, I will listen to it at the end of the year because I want to make sure I'm not reading somebody's name wrong and their album is Flames, and because I'm reading their name wrong, I don't want to listen. I will get to the good stuff. Benny the Butcher, Tanner Talk 4. You already know how I feel about that. Phife Dawg Forever, God Rest the Dead, but this will not be in my top 5. But probably in my honorable mention for sure. Fly Anakin, Frank. I've seen this around, haven't pressed play, but might. Snoop Dogg, Back on Death Row. I actually like this album, but I haven't gone back to it. But that doesn't mean it's whack. So, might be an honorable mention for me. Conway the Machine, God Don't Make Mistakes. This is the Shady release that he dropped. I think it could have been better, but it wasn't whack. It wasn't bad. Yeet, Two Alive. Haven't heard of it. Saba, Few Good Things. Somebody pops on the cover. I don't know yet, but I could be wrong. Joint could be crazy. Let's see what they say about it, because I don't know. Let's discover this together. If you don't know, come on, man, get your ass out of here. You already know. The name of the album is Few Good Things. It says, Few Good Things shatters the thematic and sonic expectations set by its predecessor. It incorporates a dizzying mix of production styles, including neo-soul, funk, and various hip-hop subgenres with production responsibility. I might have to listen to this, y'all, because that brief description right there is right up my alley. I'm a music fan. I ain't strictly a hip hop fan. I don't head nod myself to sleep all the time. I like the R&B or whatever. I might check this out. Saba, Few Good Things. You check it out. If you haven't heard it, you tell me. Currency and Alchemist, Continuous. was a little disappointed in this joint. It was just okay. Earl Sweatshirt, sick. This was cool, but I wasn't that big of a fan. Babyface Ray, Face. I think this is fairly new. I doubt I'll press play. Look, trust me, everything I say I don't know don't mean I want to hear it. I'm just saying. Dro Kenji, With or Without. Never heard of this. And what is this? They have an editor's note. Songs from the list were released between May 21st and December 31st. Oh, so they include a couple albums like, Nas and Hit Boy's Magic. Was that released December 31st? I think it was. Okay, well, that would definitely, that might make my top 5. Oh, sorry, family podcast. Juice WRLD, Fighting Demons, didn't hear it. Who is Nardo Wick? By Nardo Wick, didn't hear it. Mac Hami, Balin's Cho. I did hear it, wasn't really feeling it. The Yellow Tape 2 by Key Glock. Nope, haven't heard it. Cash Dammy, Hypernova, Young Thug Punk. I think I heard that, but it wasn't nothing crazy. Maxo Cream, Weight of the World. Wale, Florin 2. Yeah, it was all right. Atmosphere, Word, didn't hear it. Okay, hold up. All of this stuff couldn't have come out this late. Yeah, we're not even going to go back that far. We're not going to do that. Nevertheless, everything after Dro Kenji was more so on the 2022 side for their list. Now, me knowing how much hip hop I listen to, there's some albums that should be here, in my opinion. This is their opinion. I'll just name a few real quick. Elzai put out a dope joint that to me should be considered as one of the best. And I don't know, maybe they're just breaking this down to albums that could potentially be in like their top 10 best of the year or top 20. And some of this tracks with what I have, but not all of it. So we'll see. What do you think are the best hip hop albums of 2022 so far? Leave your comments in the comment section wherever you get this podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at Vegas World INC. And please know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. All you have to do is type in the search bar your favorite podcasting app, Hip Hop Now Podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And while you're doing that, while you're searching, also search for Hip Hop Twitter. You'll see me. You'll see my Twitter tag. Hit subscribe on that podcast as well. But if not, the link is in the description of this episode to all your questions answered. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.